AMP2.TV presents Tell Us Your Business, where you're invited on the air to tell us what makes your business stand out in the community. It's important we hear from you to tell us all we need to know about what you do best. Tell Us Your Business uses the latest radio and television production systems, and all shows can be seen on AMP2.TV. If you have a question for our guest, call 888-565-1470. Now, let's get ready as our guest hits the airwaves and informs us about what we need to know on Tell Us Your Business.
Hi, welcome. This is Lorena Anderson, and I am known as the life coach, life and energy coach. There we are. Hi, everybody. My name's Lorena Anderson. I have my master's in social work, was a therapist, and decided to go into life skills, life coaching skills. And to add a little additional element to that, I also teach people about their energy, how we create, how we manifest, how we start to be able to create the goals that are so important for us. And I also have next to me as well my other guest, who is Jay Feldman. So welcome, Jay. It's great to have you here.
Good to be here, Lorena. Thanks.
Well, one of the things that I teach people to do, there's Jay.
Here we are.
Say hi.
Hi.
So one of the things that I end up doing is that I take a look at an individual's life and identify where their strengths are, what the goals are that they want to meet, and what the obstacles are that keep them from allowing that goal to manifest for themselves. And Jay ends up, well, here, let me have Jay tell you what Jay does. Jay, what do you do?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, I've been in financial services my whole life, and I work with individuals, entrepreneurs, corporations, and I take those corporations from different levels. I look at their branding, how they differentiate themselves in their niches in the marketplace. In other words, Lorena, what really makes them tick.
Tick, tick, tick. Absolutely. And you would think that they would know what makes them tick already. But there's a lot of times, tell me if this isn't true, there's a lot of times that they don't quite know where to take their business to the next level or how to take it to the next level.
Very true. Actually, we call it in our business black holes. Black hole being that you're kind of swirling around, and maybe if your revenue is not moving in the right place, or you need to add another channel member, or figure out a way to how to differentiate yourself, increase your budget to be successful. So perhaps you're doing $1 million or $2 million, and you're just stuck. We call that the black hole.
Very, very interesting. And, I work with a lot of businessmen and have them tell me, not only what their goals are, but how their business has been running and some of the obstacles that they're running into. And for me, it's more of how are you showing up physically? Are you showing up physically? Because sometimes that's a problem. Some business owners I have found after really hitting it so hard and just taking off and pounding the pavement year after year after year, all of a sudden they're burned out and they really don't feel like doing it anymore. And unfortunately, their business is suffering because of it. So many times I have to take a look to see, okay, where are you physically? Where are you mentally? Where are you emotionally? Because that emotion ends up, playing a huge part in it as well. And, on some level, where are you spiritually with this? Do you feel the spirit of your business again? Do you feel as if that the life force that you have created in this business, because, technically it's their baby, is that life force is still pumping? And where's their attention? Have they given enough energy to that baby of theirs? Are they making sure that it's being nurtured and caressed and cared for? So your thoughts on that?
Well, I think it's very powerful, actually, and the unsaid component for some business people is that. In other words, what's underneath the metrics? what's underneath the sales and the revenues. And typically, you're 100% right. It's what's going on the side that you just described that's preventing or creates the obstacle course besides the lack of the numbers. So the energy, the side of the person, the side of the team, how the person is leading their team. If it's a one-person operation, it's really about how they're leading themselves.
Yeah, that's really well said. Okay, so are you a good employee to yourself? Or are you a better boss? Or do you let yourself off the hook all the time and nobody shows up? No bosses, no employees.
Well, employees are not, a lot of times the employees are blamed, but when you really look under the sheets, the entrepreneur, the leader, the boss, is really the guy who should be accountable first.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's what I'm talking about. If it's a one-man band here, what are you doing? Who's the boss and who's the employee? And not only that, but if you were the boss, would you hire yourself as an employee? Probably not. So yeah, I kind of work in the energy of the individual to see how they're functioning, or if they're functioning, how they're showing up, what kind of attention they're paying to that particular type of business. And, I just want to clear, if there's any callers that would love to call in and get a little strategy, understand who they are, how they're working their business, please, our telephone number here is 888-565-1470. Again, 888-565-1470. Please call in. We'd love to hear from you. But in the interim, Jay, what are some of the things that you mentioned branding? Tell me about branding. How is that important for that business?
Well, branding is really it's how you kind of see yourself, how you see both the place of your product in the marketplace, how it shows up, what you want to attach to what represents. So there's many components to branding, including the product itself, but also the vision that you have, how you're going to differentiate, what is your logo, your whole oomph behind what you're really selling also. So it's behind. I mean, it's one of the things I was talking to a client today along the same line, and that client was talking about work-life balance. And I think in business today, work-life balance is almost a myth. And instead, work-life integration, which really goes back to what you said, defining for yourself in the marketplace both the life side of your business and the business side of your business. And now we all are realizing now that those are the ability to shift from one world to the other world and to unite those is what we're really aiming for.
That's very powerful, uniting the both. I've always thought that it was quite a fallacy, anyhow, for somebody to turn around and say, oh, no, I leave my business at the office. And I'm like, how can you? Your business, that happens to be a huge majority of who you are, how you show up in the world, what your identity is, because so often, especially with men, their identity is completely correlated with their career path. My ex-husband was exactly that same way. He was a vice president of sales and marketing for a big Fortune 200 company. And when he came home, he was still the boss, and still on some level treating me like an employee. And I said, whoa, wait a minute. I am not your employee. I happen to be your wife. So, we don't do, you've got to separate that. But, it's very difficult to be able to separate those two because you're still that same person. You're not some different type of person. All of a sudden, you're the same person. So what I find is that a lot of times the roles might change, but the belief systems are the same. So in identifying what type of beliefs might be an obstacle for the individual so that it doesn't show, so that person doesn't show up for work, or doesn't give all of his time, or he's distracted when he's working, or she's busy, at the water cooler. I know it's stereotypical, but what ends up happening though is that they cannot fully immerse themselves into their roles, and what they do is that they start mixing the roles anyhow. You start, if they're at the water cooler, guess what? They're not talking about the business. They're talking about their personal life, right? So you're right. It's the marrying of the two. And then also understanding who you are in each of those roles, and also understanding that that's not technically who you are in those roles either. That's just a role that you play. But, the belief system is what motivates an individual. And so it's taking a look at those beliefs and seeing whether or not they serve you, they don't serve you, and the energy that goes along with them.
Well, the challenge in today's world is the blending, whether it's gender blending or role blending. That's created havoc in a way for couples to really kind of manage it. I had lunch today with the client, and her husband is the stay-at-home dad, takes the kids to school, and it really not only works for them, but they're thriving with that. So it's topsy-turvy, and some folks are doing great with it, some folks are struggling with it, and either way, it's a new paradigm.
It is a new paradigm, and that's kind of what Jay and I were talking about earlier, because one of the things that we're looking at is how do we really integrate both the business and the personal together so that the individual can be more complete and more whole and understanding how they function. So we were kind of calling it the new paradigm of business, because that's what's happening. The roles are not as stringent anymore as they used to be. They have so much more flexibility. And, it used to be only the women would stay home and raise kids and all that kind of wonderful stuff. And then it shifted to, the women out there working and coming home and being mom and taking care of all the duties of a mother and a wife. And now it's kind of shifting again to where the male influence, the male husband, father is staying home, taking care of the kids, and the wife is out working, and she's the breadwinner. So, I see the new paradigm of business being at the forefront, being able to take both of those, your personal and business, and understanding it at a completely different level.
It's such a generational difference. I thought I was back in the day when my kids were young. They're 35 and 37 now, but I remember thinking, I'm giving the kids breakfast on Sunday, and I thought that was a big deal. and now when I watch my son with my two grandchildren, I'm amazed at the sharing and the expectation of sharing, which perhaps is even more important. It's the expectation of sharing that makes today's marriage different, with all the stressors that go along with that, though.
Yeah, yes. But what's so amazing, though, is I think that dads really enjoy being with their kids. They love raising their kids, and they're not afraid to change a diaper either, which I think is really quite fascinating. I like that.
Well, as a grandfather, I'm still on the journey, but I am changing some diapers though. But you have to go along you have to be ready to go along and to get along, and I think it's fabulous. I think the stressors are new. Everybody's trying to cope and get there, and then you throw in the gender blender and the role definition, and it's a lot. It's a lot of new stuff.
Oh my God, that's so funny. The gender blender. I like that. That's pretty funny. So tell me some more about your business, Jay. How do you help people? Do you use different types of programs, or something that's systematic, or forms that they have to fill out, or how do you manage to do that?
Well, for the most part, there's a couple of different components. You really have 4 Ps, I call it, which is a plan, process, people, and performance. So you're kind of aiming to get the first 3 Ps to get the performance. But we do have various assessment tools that help us both from getting to know somebody and being able to see what your priorities are. I always tell people, look, we're going to do some assessments on you. It's going to take some time and some debrief. And you will be able to tell us after you do that, and after I do it on you, what your priorities are, what your let goes are, and what relationships perhaps are toxic in this whole thing, using the light. So it's important that we get all of that done. And I tell my clients, imagine it's a year from now and you're rating me on an A, B, or C system or a 1 to 10 system. So when you put down those priorities and those let goes, we put them down in writing. And a year from now, you hold me just as much as I hold you from an accountability standpoint. You hold me to you hitting those things.
Wow, that's very different. I don't think I've heard of too many coaches that do that. Although I end up doing that. I ask my individuals, I spend an hour each week with them, and after about 4 weeks and teaching them the tools and techniques of how we function in this world, it's kind of like an owner's manual for being human. How we create, how we manifest, how we attract different situations in our life. So, after about 4 weeks, and I also teach them how to quiet the mind. I mustn't forget that. How to be present in the moment, which is so absolutely essential because, so many times we're trying to create our future based on our past. Well, that's the past. It doesn't exist anymore, but yet we're in fear of it. So we're trying different things so that we don't end up, manifesting something that's going to fail in our future. I've got to tell you, it's it's exhausting. So I teach people just how to quiet the mind, how to relax back down in the body, how to reconnect to their goals and their visions, what it feels like to have them, and then we progress, we move forward on that. Well, in doing so, after about the 4th week, I asked them, I said, do you remember that person that was sitting out there, just 4 weeks ago? I said, does that person, do you remember that person? And it's like, no, I feel so much different, because when you start, allowing them to see what those obstacles are, I've got to tell you, all of a sudden it's an aha moment. And that's what I love to do, is to create those aha moments so that they can really tap into what their belief systems are. I have this little saying, if you believe you can or you believe you can't, you're right. What do you believe? Now, we take it to the next level. Guess what? You can feel. When you're not believing in yourself, you can feel it, because all of a sudden that I can't, it's heavy, it's downtrodden. You don't feel like you have any level of personality. And the opposite, when you feel like you can, you feel strong and your posture's, straight, and those shoulders are strong, and you can take on the world. So it's identifying what those beliefs are, as much as you do, and whether or not they're in life or they're in business, because guess what? They're in both. It doesn't matter in which role you take it, because you're always going to be in that role. You don't change, your belief systems based on the role. But so.
No, well, I can honestly say, and full transparency, I've taken a couple of sessions with Lorena, and one of the many observations along the lines of what she's talking about is, even me, after 9 years of actually coaching, if I count the last 2 years at the firm I was with, where they trained me to be a coach also, but it's very, you typically sometimes use the words, I hope to do this as a business person, I might, and Lorena will just slap me with a 2x4 and say, you will.
I'm like, you might what?
There's no might.
Yeah, I said, okay, so when are you going to do it? Let's take a look at the time. What day would you like to do that?
So the fun part is us coaches are constantly in need and wanting of our own self-development to get this right. So coaches will go to other coaches to fine-tune their skill sets, and if they don't, then they're not doing their job.
They're not growing themselves.
No.
Yeah.
No.
So Jay, how do we get a hold of you?
You can get me at my landline is 954-763-2505, and my cell phone's 954-599-3242, and my website's easy, www.jfeldmaninc.com.
Okay, great. And we're going to repeat that again, just in case you haven't gotten your pen and paper out. I'll give you 2 seconds. 1, 2. Okay, Jay. Can you repeat your telephone number and your email address as well?
Office is 954-763-2505. Cell phone's 954-599-3242. And the website is just Jay Feldman Inc., www.jayfeldmaninc.com. And my email is j@jayfeldmaninc.com.
Excellent. Excellent. And I've got to tell you, I've worked with Jay as well. And the way that he promotes you and your business has you taking a look at branding and what differentiates you from the competition is really quite remarkable. And I can't say enough about you. And not only that, but I don't know if you have found this to be true out there in the marketplace. There are, quite a few different people that you never quite feel that trust level with. And for good reason. Sometimes our intuition talks to us all the time as to the individuals that we have in our space. So I have found that there are many times where finding somebody of honesty and integrity might be a little difficult. If honesty and integrity is important to you, then I would highly recommend Jay Feldman. Please give him a call. If you're looking at building that business, branding that business, finding that strategy that's going to take your business to the next level, please, by all means, give him a call because he's really good. And he's got all the forms and all the papers and everything. And as far as myself, Lorena, the energy shifter I'm known as, you can reach me. My website is theenergyshifter.com, and you can reach me at lorenaanderson@gmail.com, and I'll spell that for you because it's kind of long. LAURINA Anderson with an O @gmail.com. You can call my office 954-647-5525, or you can call my cell as well, 407-340-0301. And I am in the Fort Lauderdale area, and I can travel. My office is in Fort Lauderdale, but I occasionally travel if there's somebody who is in need and can't quite make it out of the house. I'm more than happy to accommodate that. And as far as Jay is concerned, by the way, I'm also do Skype. I also do phone, and I am also international. So in case that is of importance to you as well. And yourself, sir?
All true on all the accounts.
You're international as well.
I am, and I work with folks, I guess, geographically in New York, Chicago, and down here, but have done Skype calls all over the country and overseas too.
Excellent. Now, one of the other things that, I wanted to share before our half-hour segment here ends, little tidbits, okay? I kind of talked about quieting the mind, relaxing down into the body, de-stressing. Those are some of the techniques that I teach. The other thing, though, that's important to know is how we move our energy. When in terms of energy, you move it via your attention. Whatever you put your attention on grows, and your breath. So anytime that you're feeling stressed out, or if things are not doing so well, one of the great relievers happens to be being able to breathe into the body. And I mean a full, deep breath all the way down to the toes. That is incredibly important because many times when we go through stress, we stop breathing, or we cut it off right here. And then we put more attention into our head. And before you know it, our head is going crazy because we're having this great big committee meeting in there, or it's going into an argument. I call it the mental mob scene. And that's what ends up happening up there. So many times what's so important is to take that deep breath. Even if you take like 2 or 3 seconds, or if you can remove yourself from the situation, breathe deep down into your body and relax, dropping your shoulders. And I've got to tell you, it will decrease your stress level. And we all know what the number one killer is out there: stress. So, and what I'd like to do is, leave you with a couple more tidbits. And that is, if you have the ability of giving yourself even a 5 or 10 minute meditation, just quieting, going to a quiet place, and just becoming present and aware of what's going on with the body. So it's kind of like feeling your clothes on your body, relaxing down into the chair, feeling the chair melting into the chair, giving yourself just 5 to 10 minutes of quieting that mind, deep breathing, feeling that breath coming in and leaving. It's absolutely essential in de-stressing your body and yourself. Some tidbits that you'd like to share with the audience before we end this segment?
I would just really be additive to what you just described, because I've seen, after almost 35 years in Wall Street, where right now the trend is where perhaps the men executives were loath to really do some of this type of work. I think now you're finding really what I call triple testosterone executives that are doing meditation.
Yes, I know.
So
I love that.
That's the new paradigm.
Well, I want to thank you for joining us tonight. Again, my name's Lorena Anderson. I'm known as the Energy Shifter, your life and energy coach. And thank you, Jay Feldman, for coming in this evening as well, our business coach. If there's any questions or whatever, please, you've got our telephone number. Just give us a call. We would love to help you. Again, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure to be with you tonight.
This has been Tell Us Your Business, where a special guest comes on every week and tells us what they do. All shows can be seen on amp2.tv, and if you wish to be a guest, call 866-224-5422 and tell us about your business. That's 866-224-5422. This has been an amp2.tv production. The opinions expressed on the